Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan and Joe Biden. Oh, he makes his first speech. His first speech since he's left office. Oh, I'm so happy he's back. There's nothing like a Joe Biden rant. There's nothing like. I always like a good Trump rant because he just goes off and he has no limits, no filter. But there's something about Joe Biden just rambling about stuff that doesn't make sense. Just, especially now that he's not running the country, you can just enjoy it. When you see it before, you'd be like, oh, this is terrifying. This is terrifying. Now it's just good old fun. And what I'll talk about after I show you the clip and talk about this whole thing is the fact that this gentleman passed away. Pope Francis has passed away at 88 years old. We will get to that after the Joe Rogan clip, but let's start with the Joe Rogan clip first.
Make this place a better place.
This is what you got to realize when it comes to politicians. Most of them are already dead or on their way. Unless you're J.D. Vance, he's really young. Tulsi Gabbard's young.
Yeah, Tulsi's the
Most of these people, when you're in office, like Trump is almost 80. Biden, did you see what Biden said yesterday?
What do you say?
Oh, Jay, did you see it? They let him talk.
he's like, what, 80-something, 90?
Out of nowhere, they let yeah. They're letting him talk, and I'm like, who's letting him talk? This is crazy. Here, I'll send you this, Jamie. It's so silly. He's gone, bro. He's gone. They let him talk. They just let him get out in the open and put a microphone in front of his face. But I guess, like, as a former president, you can kind of request, I like a speak my mind. One day just had enough mixture. They filled him up with enough peptides, got a little pep in his step.
Feeling good.
Yeah, as a former president, he's important and get out there and tell everybody how I feel about things. Listen, like, give me some volume and go full screen because this is, you got to see his face.
Pulled into the parking lot, and I'd never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time, and I was only going in fourth grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by. They never turned right to go to Claymont High School. I wondered why. Asked my mom, why? So in Delaware, they're not allowed to go to school, in public school, with white kids, honey. That sparked my sense of outrage as a kid, just like it does. I mean, and these young kids right here can tell you things affect them when they learn about something that's really just unfair and unjust. You know, my dad was an honorable man. And my dad used to have an expression. He says, Joey, your job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. That's what you're all about. That's what the legislation's about. It's about dignity. Simple dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of their standing, regardless of the economic situation, regardless of who they are.
Yeah.
Making sure that more than 60 million Americans who are living with disabilities are treated with dignity is who we are as Americans. That's what it's about.
I hope he does more.
I mean it.
We should have him at the mothership.
Yeah, we got to let him go up. Give him 10.
Dignity
Give him an
at
hour.
work, at school, in their communities.
Give him a drink.
He might die.
Every corner of American life. Laws like the ADA need advocates like you.
Okay.
You're the ones.
No, you can tell he got something. He took something that morning and he was fired up.
He's feeling
dude.
good. They got him on a good dose.
He was
Had a nice
fired.
nap.
He had a good
Nice nap. But it's crazy to let him do that because now we know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. Like, that was all auto-penned. He didn't even sign those things.
Yeah, it is crazy
That's
how
a weird.
old
That
they are.
auto-pen's a weird thing. How lazy are you? How many things are you signing that you have to auto-pen things? That's crazy that you can auto-pen. The whole thing is supposed to be signature.
Yeah, that's your job. That's the thing.
That's your job.
You read it, you go over it, you make sure it's right, and you sign it.
What the f- are you
What are we
doing?
paying? I don't
What
understand,
the f-
man.
are we doing? What are we doing? How are you auto-penning? That's the crazy thing about all those pardons. Yeah, there's like, how many pardons did he have? I think he had 9,000 pardons, and it was all auto-penned. So it's like everybody was like, this, if I had to imagine, like worst case scenario, I'm not assuming or accusing anybody doing this, but I would imagine if you got a hold of that auto pen, it'd be like, yo, I got the auto pen. Like, Who needs
All the boys is out.
I need money.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to get rich, and you're trying to get free, and let's get something rolling.
Just hit the button.
I mean, how many times? First of all, if you can't be tried because they decide that you're mentally incapable of standing trial, that's what they said about him. They were going to try him on some classified documents case. They said the judge ruled that he was incapable of standing trial while he was running for president for the second term. While he was running for president, they were saying he's incapable of standing trial. So if we're saying that there's something wrong with him cognitively, but we're still allowing him to give people pardons, like if he's not sane enough, if he's not there enough to stand trial,
To defend himself.
How could he be there enough to decide whether or not someone deserves a pardon? That seems insane. And then how could you use the Autopen? He's like, what about that guy? Yes, pardon him. What about that guy? Let him off, free. He deserves it. Like, he's pointing. 9,000. There's no way. If you have all the time in the world, how are you going over 9,000 cases?
Most of those were the marijuana releases.
Well, that's
The
nice.
federal,
How many of them? What
like
can you?
6,500 or so.
Oh, that's nice.
But auto penning it is, when you think about what that means, that is crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's just, is that for sale? Pardons are crazy anyway. You just let somebody out of jail because you're the king.
'Cause you're
I'm
the king.
Fucking that trial.
Yeah.
That jury.
I like
You're
that guy.
free, bro.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
That's crazy power. Let people out of jail.
Mhm.
You know?
In mass numbers.
What was the total?
I'm trying to find the exact number.
Okay.
Because
But
9,000.
6,500, I agree with. I agree with all those marijuana ones.
Well, yeah, that's not a real thing. I feel
That's
bad.
the craziest shit. That there were people in Colorado that were in jail for selling marijuana, looking out the window of their prison to marijuana dealerships, selling marijuana legally.
And nice packaging.
Yeah. Nice.
With barcodes on it.
Little
I mean,
cartoon characters smiling when they're high on them.
Snoop Dogg on the cover of a bag.
Yeah.
Oh, my
See, that's the
God.
good thing about progressive governments, right? Progressive governments like Colorado, they realize that people's right to experiment with all kinds of different things, including alcohol, but also, like, you should have the freedom to take things. You should have the freedom to explore your own consciousness. And Colorado agreed with that real early. You know, that's the good thing about progressive governments, and that's the bad thing about a lot of conservative governments. They want to stop you from doing that. You know, they want to prosecute people for that fucking grass, that dirty. Where's your dope? Your fucking dope.
Yeah, they don't like it when your mind opens up a little bit. But you said it earlier. Oh, man, if we could just get everybody on mushrooms, everybody might love each other and all these things.
Yeah,
That
I don't
is
think
scary.
they think that way though.
Nah, that's not always what happens. I've seen people do stuff like that and it doesn't turn out all rosy and sunflowers and rainbows, and it gets dark sometimes, some people. But going to Biden, yes. Talking about colored kids. Of course he's talking about colored kids. Of course he is. Are you kidding me? Ugh. I was coming in. I was with my mother, and we were on this boat. It was called the Mayflower, and I saw another boat. It was filled with all of these coloreds, and I was like, Mama, who are those people? And she said, they're going to work on the field for us. I said, oh, wow. Oh, well, what are their names? And she's like, we'll name them all when they get here. Oh, and then Elon Musk came, and he came, and the rocket came down, and him and Mike Tyson got out. And they were shadow boxing, but they weren't scaring me. I can't wait for another speech. God damn it. He went for 27 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. This is a record long speech for Joe Biden. Second only to his address. That's it. Other than that, you haven't seen him talk this long in the longest time. I'll play a little bit of before what Joe played, maybe a little bit after what Joe played, but, you know. Oh, geez. But that's this is the highlight.
Think of what the psychic calm gives so many people who just don't know where to go, don't know how to traverse what needs to be done, or alone. Last fall on the White House lawn, we celebrated the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. As the United States Senate,
The American Disabilities Act. Fantastic. Get it. Trump needs to put this man in his administration somehow. You know, something. He needs to give him some kind of position. You know, no secret clearance, no security clearance, anything like that. But he just shows up and oh my God.
400 years ago. I was looking back on it. God almighty, I've been doing this 50 years. It's hell turning 40 years old, anyway. But back in the year 1990, I was the co-sponsor of the Americans with Disabilities Act as a United States Senator. In my view, and I suspect many of you, it was one of the most consequential civil rights laws in American history. That's what got me involved in politics in the first place. Delaware, like Maryland, was one of those states with a slave state. We had all the vestiges of what was going on back in the day. We were one of those.
How old is this guy? This guy just said it was a slave state. All jokes aside, somebody produced this man's birth certificate. This is crazy. It was a slave state. This is one of the most consequential pieces of civil rights. We were making it so they didn't have rusty chains anymore. All of those slaves. We did major work for those slaves. And Abraham Lincoln would look at me and I'd look at him. And he was tall. And I'd say, listen here, Abraham. And I'd grab him by his beard. And I'd say, come down here and look at me. That's Corn Pop over there. You're going to let him go. That was me that did that.
States that still, I remember moving from Scranton, Pennsylvania down to Wilmington, Delaware, and Cole died. My dad moved back to where we could get a job. And I remember I pulled into, my mom would drive us on the Philadelphia Pike connecting Wilmington and Philadelphia. And we lived in an apartment complex. And she'd drive us it was only about half a mile to Holy Rosary School in Claremont. But it was so dangerous, she wouldn't let us walk up because of access road. And I remember pulling into the parking lot. And I had never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time I was only going in the 4th grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by. They never turned right to go to Claremont High School. I wondered why. Asked my mom, why? So in Delaware, they're not allowed to go to school, in public school, with white kids, honey. That sparked my sense of outrage as a kid, just like it does. I mean, and these young kids right here can tell you things affect them when they learn about something that's really just unfair.
Yeah. He said that in front of young kids. Of course he did. Of course he did. It's a slave state, you understand, and the blacks, they couldn't go to school with the whites. And you little kids know what I'm talking about. I see a couple of you guys got dark skin. What are you guys, Mexican? You guys brown, black? Huh? Which one? What are you guys here? Huh? I know you're one of the smart ones. He's pointing at a white kid. What are the rest of you? Oh man. It's interesting that right now there is not a racist president in the office, right? But there was one. And now we're told that there is one in the office. And this guy's just, everybody forgets everything that he said. You know? He said some wild stuff. This is very tame. This is just fun. But you know when his mom was telling him about the colored kids, let me tell you something. Look, he even has me saying colored kids. This guy's got some charisma on him. It's rubbing off. Now I'm calling black people colored. You know his mom didn't use the word colored. Not back then. Not back in the 1800s. She's probably throwing around N-words. Throwing around hard R's. She was like, those hard R's don't go to school with you, you understand? They're not mentally equipped. She probably said some shit like that. She probably did. But I won't throw her under the bus like that. You know, it's a very interesting speech. I just want to get to the part where he yells real quick.
Not just. You know, my dad was an honorable man. And my dad used to have an expression. He said, Joey, your job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, that's what you're all about. That's what the legislation is about. It's about dignity, simple dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of their standing, regardless of the economic situation, regardless of who they are. Making sure that more than 60 million Americans.
Just yelling. Let me tell you something. This whole thing, we're 5 minutes in. He's already yelling. Good for him, man. If he can still do it, he should. But all jokes aside, one thing that Joe Rogan and his guests were talking about, Derek, one thing they were talking about was the Autopen situation. And Trump has actually been into that Autopen situation. I'll show you this first, and then I'll show you another quote that he recently said in another Fox interview.
And you know what? They ought to find out who was using that Autopen. Because whoever that person was, he or she was like the president of the United States. And I'm against Autopens. I think Autopens are not a good thing, especially when you're talking about documents like we're signing today. If he can't sign, then he can't be president. It's pretty simple. Let's see whether or not he could sign. But I think that should be tested. I really think that should be tested. It's another one. And you know what? They ought to find out who was using that Autopen.
So Trump actually has mentioned this a couple of times. In this press conference, about a month or so ago, he mentioned this as well, where he really wants to know who was authorized to do the whole Autopen thing. A lot of people speculate that it was Jill because of her participation in meetings. And some people think, myself, I think something like Anthony Blinken, possibly, just because he's so close to Biden all the time. He was constantly watching over him and everything. But it could be anybody. I mean, the administration is vast. There could have, who knows who that could have been. It could have been an effort coming together kind of thing, where they all talk it out the same way we saw J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, and all those people talk it out via Signal. Maybe people were behind the scenes just talking things out and being like, okay, we're going to pen this up. We're going to sign it. Because that speech, and again, Trump is saying this because of what Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, said about around a month and a half ago, where he was talking about literally meeting with Biden. And of course, he's probably told Trump about this in private. Meeting with Biden, saying, "Hey, you signed this executive order," and Biden's like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Yes, you did, sir." He's like, "You signed this order, and this is what's happening." And Biden did not know that he signed something that had this great impact on foreign relations, and that just times that by however many he let happen like that. Did he ever know what was signed? That's a big question that's being posed now. Also, Trump made sure to say, again, about a month ago, he was talking about the pardons being void. All those preemptive pardons, because they were done in Autopen, Trump is now saying that they are void. Not just Trump, but his administration, the legal team, they're saying these are void because a president actually has to not only just sign off, but actually it's too fragile of a situation when you're pardoning someone, when you're taking them out of jail, which they might need to be in to rehabilitate. You're taking them out of that environment and putting them back in the general population. You have to be fully aware of what you're doing, what they did, how many years they have left, et cetera, et cetera. As aware as you'd want to be if you knew you were releasing someone from jail. Think about all the things you would want to know, right? So did he know about any of that when he released people from jail? A lot of people are saying no. Here's another quote from Trump.
Just how involved was former First Lady Jill Biden in running Joe Biden's White House? Our own Rachel Campos Duffy asked President Trump what he thought in an exclusive interview on Fox Noticias.
Was Jill running the White House?
Look, she was certainly involved because he gave her the last meeting to preside over with the cabinet meeting.
Was she the Autopen?
No, I don't think so. She was. They had a lot of bad people. They had a lot of radical left lunatics in there, and I think he was perfect. He was perfect for them because he didn't have a clue.
Here to react, Fox and Friends weekend co-host Rachel Campos Duffy and Charlie Hurt. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
Congratulations on that great interview. What is your sense? Who do you think was working behind the scenes?
Well, I asked that question on behalf of Charlie, who's often called Jill Dr. Autopen. Listen, it could be senior advisors. He thinks it was, wokey senior advisors. Other people think that by the end, Jill Biden, who'd been pressuring him to actually run since the beginning, a lot of people critical of her role in having him there when he was clearly not up for the job. But think about this. He signed 65 pardons, and between 40 and 60 of them were signed by Autopen. So the question is, are those null and void? Because back in 2005, the DOJ said that the Autopen was okay for administrative documents, but could not and should not be used for pardons. So there's a lot of questions besides all the sort of political ones. There's some real questions. Are those pardons valid? Are some of the policies that he put in place valid? And who was running the White House? Whoever was Autopen, one thing we know for sure, that person is responsible for degrading our country economically, culturally, and spiritually.
So there you go. There you go. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Trump has already gone into action saying that those Liz Cheney, Fauci, Adam Schiff, I think Adam Kissinger, who else? Biden's family, Hunter Biden as well. I think they're all just in the wind now. They're up for grabs. Kash Patel, do your thing. Pam Bondi, your cue. It's time. That type of thing. So we'll see. I don't know. But honestly, as much as it sucks, it sucks and it's good, I guess. Trump's been very generous. I mean, he didn't lock up Hillary. He's not going after Hillary. He's not really going after Biden. It doesn't seem like he's pressing against these people. He took away security clearance. He made it so they can't inflict any more damage on the country. And it seems like he's just going forward with his agenda, and that's where his main focus is. And that's a great thing to see. If he was wrapped up with revenge as much as the mainstream media said he was going to be, then he wouldn't be able to get all the stuff done that he's gotten done so far. So I guess it is a good thing. Although prison, some of them, right? Am I wrong? Some of them, prison. Not El Salvador. I'm not heartless. Jail. Jumpsuits. Yeah. Right? Am I wrong? But Pope Francis did pass away, like I told you guys. Passed away at 88, and you may recognize one of the last people to see him alive. Vice President J.D. Vance. Check this out.
Pray for you every day. God bless you. So good to see you. Good morning. How are you?
Find yourself.
Good. Yeah, thank you. I've not been feeling great, but it's good to see you in better health.
Grazie, Santo Padre.
Thank you.
These are for your children.
Okay, thank you.
These are the gifts. These are also gifts for you.
Thank you.
It's
beautiful.
The Vatican tie, and then the rosaries for your wife, the white for your children, and the red one is for. Thank you very much for your visit.
Of course, and thank you for seeing me. Pray for you every day. God bless you.
Io prego per lei ogni giorno, che Dio la benedica. Grazie, Santo Padre.
Happy Easter. Pray for you every day. God bless you. So good to see you.
So that was one of the last meetings that he had. Pope Francis apparently came out Easter Sunday. Happy Easter, by the way. And he was greeting just thousands of followers, not like he is with JD right now, probably waving from a balcony, as we've seen popes do pretty much our whole lives. Probably doing something like that. And this was one of the last people to actually see him alive. It happened not soon, soon after this picture was taken. he passed away. It was about 7:35. JD met with him. I believe this is early afternoon. I want to say like 3 p.m. So one of the last meetings that he had was with JD Vance, and then he passed away. You know what? I'm going to give you a little bonus content here, okay? I'm going to give you a little bonus content. I hope I can find it. Let me, I found something weird. Who'd I send it to? Who'd I send it to? I don't know who I sent it to. Hold on, let me switch here. I don't want you guys to see. You don't want to see deep into the DMs, okay, guys? Just trust me. Is this it? Let's see. Is this it? No.
The prophet.
Oh, yeah. So this is it. Check this out. This is weird. This is very weird stuff. It's called The Prophecy of the Popes. Okay? Watch this. Check this out. I never watched these guys. I never watched this podcast, but I always see their clips, and I'm always like, oh, man, I wish my podcast was just about stuff like this.
The Prophecy of the Popes.
Oh boy.
This book was found in the Vatican archives. Predicted every single pope from in 1143 all the way to our current pope. But the scary thing is, after Pope Francis, the last one, it just says Judgment Day.
Oh gosh.
It literally ends after Pope Francis?
Yes. The creepiest thing that I saw inside St. Paul's Basilica, bordering the whole inner sanctuary, is every single pope. But what's weird is that there's only a certain amount of markers to where you can put a picture. There's one left after Pope Francis. They have always said that once that last slot is filled, it will be the end of the world. What he predicted, the time it took to go from the first pope that he wrote about, halfway mark, was 422 years. And he's saying from the middle one to the end, another 422 years will be the end of the world. If you do 422 years from the middle pope, which was 1585, that year is 2027.
Dang!
It's even weirder. Pope John the 23rd, and he said that the end of the world would happen 2,000 years plus Christ's life. So that adds up to 2027 as well. You guys want to hear something terrifying? The prophet.
Well, it adds, Jesus was 33, I believe, when he died. And risen, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Happy Easter once again. But, so everything was on point except for that last little part there. But it's just really interesting to think about, like, what does that mean? That's real about the basilica there. They really do have those pictures set up. There is only space for one more. Why would they set it up like that? The artists of those times who created those things did not do anything by mistake. Now, what if the end of the world means the end of the world? In Christianity, Catholicism, we discuss the world as like Bugattis and pure material, BBLs, Kardashians. Like, that's the world, all that stuff, the material world, the vanity of everything. We consider that the world, and maybe it means the end of that. Or it could mean exactly what comes to everyone's minds when we talk about that. Pure calamity, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, but I just found that interesting. I figured I'd give you guys that little tidbit. I was like, should I show this? I was like, oh, why not? Why not? It's a fun little thing. If you already know, you should put your tinfoil Speedos on. So if you didn't have it on, you're wet. And that was your own doing. You got to put it on. As soon as I make up a lot of things of why I do the clap, but that's why. Because when I do this, you should be pulling it up. If you got drawstrings, you should be tying them off, and that's it. If you didn't do that, that's your fault, right? Anyways, guys, rest in peace to Pope Francis. I know there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to say, I didn't like him because XYZ. Don't call him a gentleman. Don't say condolences. Too bad. Guy was a pope, passed away at 88 years old. Condolences to him and whatever family he has left. And we'll see who the next one is. And hopefully the world doesn't end. I'm out.